It's another week's worth of movies, and with that week's worth, we invite in our very own Michael Snyder. Hello, Michael.
Hey, Alex, and a happy Halloween weekend, everybody. And things are scary out there, and certainly scary at the movies, where it's been kind of a weak week, if you will. So let's get to it. Our two big movie releases feature a couple of unlikable protagonists that you're supposed to eventually come to admire, at least, and it's not easy, and the movies aren't that great. The first one is Our Brand is Crisis. In 2005, a documentary of that name was released about American political strategists, including the famous James Carville, who are hired to help a candidate win the 2002 Bolivian presidential election. And I guess someone thought it would be a good idea to turn that into a political satire. And this is sort of a wannabe satire because it just doesn't hit the mark quite enough. Sandra Bullock plays Calamity Jane Bodine, a presumed fictional political strategist who is retired and in the mountains living in solitude when she's convinced to unretire to help a Bolivian presidential candidate win against an opponent backed by her professional nemesis, a guy played by Billy Bob Thornton. So he's almost like channeling James Carville with the southern accent and such. At first, the Jane Bodine character is a wreck in the high altitudes of Bolivia. She's sick and seemingly out of it. Then she starts to get it together. But, you know, it's only sporadically sharp. It never really seems legit nor particularly funny. Let's put it this way. It's no Wag the Dog, even if it wants to be. It's directed, oddly enough, by David Gordon Green, who came on the scene with this pretty cool low-budget film about kids in southern rural economically depressed areas, a movie whose title George Washington belied the subject matter, but it was an impressive first splash, and he went on to direct All the Real Girls and Pineapple Express, which I thought were both good, an okay low-budget film called Prince Avalanche, and a lot of minor forgettable films that fell through the cracks, and the horribly unfunny Your Highness. This is a misfire, too. Anthony Mackie and Zoe Kazan are in this thing. They're kind of wasted. Yeah, not buying into this one. Okay, probably worse, although there are moments of genuine emotion thanks to the power of acting. Burnt is a movie about a chef who kills his career by being a drug-addled egomaniac. He starts out in Paris, and he basically screws the pooch there, ends up in New Orleans in a brief prologue, and then finally decides he's going to recalibrate and resuscitate that career. Bradley Cooper is the star as this chef, and he goes to London, and he's going to bring a restaurant that's on the skids to the top of the Michelin stars. And, you know, he's a prick from the get-go, and he stays that way for most of the film. So it's hard to root for him. To be fair, like I said, the supporting cast is great. The German actor Daniel Brühl is a colleague from Paris who is running the restaurant in London. Matthew Rhys from The Americans plays a longtime rival who used to be a buddy. Emma Thompson is a therapist who's supposed to help him get over his crap. And there are tiny, tiny, tiny cameos by Uma Thurman as a restaurant critic, and Alicia Vikander, who's everywhere and pretty damn wonderful in most of the films she's in, as the ex-girlfriend who was maybe a problem child. And finally, Sienna Miller plays the love interest, a sous chef who's going to maybe, I don't know, turn this guy's life around for him. But it just did not work. You know, there were moments when I was actually caught up in this thing, but ultimately not impressed. Another misfire. Okay. Love is a powerful and fairly controversial film from the controversial French director Gaspar Noé, who did I Stand Alone, Irreversible, about a rape with Monica Bellucci. That movie was told in reverse. And Enter the Void, which is a kind of a freaky-deaky, psychedelic-charged visit to Asia by American expat. This is a sexual melodrama that's supposed to check into the consequences of sex, and it looks at this relationship between an American living in France, a guy who looks like a cross between Channing Tatum and Johnny Depp, Call him Channing Scrotum. Again, this is pretty explicit. A sexy but unstable Parisian woman, a gap-toothed brunette nut job, who's pretty damn attractive, but and their pretty neighbor, who's a slim blonde 17-year-old with a yen for carnal adventure. It's in 3D. This movie is in 3D. Now, if you see only one 3D movie this year, I'd say make it The Walk. And if you see two, maybe you should see The Cock, which is what I think this thing should have actually been called. It's complete with 3D cum shots and 3D three-ways. I guess in the olden days of X-rated movies, there were 3D pornos, and this is a cut above that with handsome people, fantastic cinematography, true stereoscopic 3D, and a fancy score that includes Bach, Eric Satie, and Brian Eno. But the acting is still pretty wooden, except for the wood, if you know what I mean. The male lead in particular, a lot of it's in English, so the occasional subtitles are not too difficult to get through if that's not your thing. And there was a lot to like about it. I mean, it's beautiful to look at, and it's so strange to see explicit sex in 3D on the big screen. And the 3D three-way was genuinely sexy. But man, I sure have some caveats about love. I didn't love it. Let's put it that way. They did not show any of the critics in San Francisco, where I'm based at the moment, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, despite the fact that, I kind of would like a movie to watch Boy Scouts, fighting zombies and saving their town from the undead, but they didn't show it to us. And I will say in passing, The Wonders is a pretty fantastic Italian film, again, with subtitles, about a family of beekeepers in central Italy, and a kid comes to stay with them, and then a production crew wants to do a TV event that celebrates Etruscan culture. So a pretty famous a TV presenter played by Monica Bellucci shows up, and that throws things into craziness. And the eldest daughter is dealing with the whole coming of age thing. It's probably the best film of any of these that I've mentioned. And more's the pity. Wish I had had better news for a holiday weekend like this, particularly if you adults out there don't want to particularly dress up in costume and cavort around. What's up with you?
Nothing. I wish I had something here for you, but I really don't.
Watching anything on the at home, home video, anything extended, any feature films, any documentaries?
No. Nothing that I'm saying, oh, you really got to see this.
Well, I tell you what, I have heard, and it's available in a couple theaters, and I think it's probably direct to video, that Tab Hunter Confidential, all about the handsome 50s actor who was closeted and eventually came out as gay, is a pretty cool film, pretty well-made documentary. And, I'm going to try to seek it out and watch it, particularly since I'm going to be back in the Hollywood cauldron within a week or so. So,
Well, I guess that's about it then. There's nothing more to report.
Okay, before you jump, a quick note to people. Manhattan has been fantastic on WGN. If you don't have a chance to see it, I'm sorry. It's in its second season. It's about what went on during the Manhattan Project in the Southwest in the 40s as they battled to build the atomic bomb and win the war. And the French zombie show, The Returned, is coming back. So be on the lookout for that. I thought that was pretty great, despite, again, subtitles. That's it.
That's it. Tell them where they can find you, Michael.
I am on Twitter, @CultureBlaster, one word, and drop by Facebook's Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page, and you can link up to our conversations. And also, hey, we're on Roku, buddy.
Yeah, you're on Roku. You're there, and that's you're everywhere.
Man,
anyway,
I wish.
Thanks, Michael.
You bet.
There's more Gabnet coming up right now.